Good morning. I'm Dr. William Lee, and I want to start with something that might actually challenge how you think about aging. We talk a lot about longevity. We talk about adding years to your life. But what we don't talk about, what we almost never talk about, is the profound rarity of people your age who are still doing the things that actually matter. And I don't mean the things you'd expect. I've spent over 20 years working with patients between 75 and 85. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, the people who are thriving at 80, who are still independent, still engaged, still themselves, they share something almost nobody your age is doing anymore, something measurable, and something that research now suggests might be the single clearest predictor of not just how long you live, but how well you live. Today, I'm going to walk you through 6 things that separate the rare people, the ones aging extraordinarily, from everyone else. And I want to be direct with you. By the time we reach number 1, you might realize you're not doing it. Most people over 75 aren't, but the ones who are, they're the outliers. They're the rare ones. And the question I want you to answer before this video ends is simple. Do you want to join them? But before we get there, I need something from you. Drop your age in the comments right now. Not later. Now. Tell me which of these 6 things you're already doing consistently, because I read every single comment on this channel, everyone in this community, your stories, your struggles, your wins. That's what keeps me making these videos. Your comment matters. You matter. So please leave it below. Let's have a real conversation about what's actually possible at 75, 80, 85. Now, let's count down from 6 to 1. And I'm warning you, number 1 is not what you think it is. Number 6, strategic intentional hydration. Not casual water drinking, strategic. Here's what most people get dangerously wrong about water after 75. You think hydration at 75 works the same way it did at 45. It doesn't. Your kidneys have lost nearly 40% of their filtering capacity. Your thirst mechanism, that signal that tells your body it's thirsty, has essentially been turned down by 30 to 40%. You can be severely dehydrated and genuinely not feel thirsty. But here's the dangerous part. Every single percentage point of hydration loss impacts your cognitive function, your balance, your blood's ability to deliver oxygen to your brain and muscles. Think of your bloodstream like a delivery network. When the river runs dry, the delivery system breaks down. A landmark study published in the Journal of the American Geriatrics Society tracked over 5,600 adults aged 70 to 90 over 8 years. Those who maintained consistent hydration above 1.5 liters daily showed a 34% lower rate of hospitalization, a 41% reduction in dizziness and fall-related incidents, and significantly better performance on cognitive assessments. One study, one clear finding: hydration is not optional for your age group. It's foundational. The brain is 75% water. A 3% dehydration drop causes measurable cognitive impairment at any age. After 75, that effect compounds because your brain's backup systems are already stretched thin. Here's what the rare people do differently. They don't wait until they're thirsty. They drink 14 to 18 ounces of water first thing in the morning, before coffee, before breakfast, because your body loses 15 to 20% more fluid overnight after 75 than it did in midlife. Then they drink a small glass with every meal and one mid-afternoon. But here's the critical addition most people miss. They add a pinch of electrolytes or sea salt to their morning water. Why? After 75, your kidneys struggle to retain sodium. Without it, plain water passes through your system without being fully absorbed into your cells. You're hydrated in volume, but not at the cellular level where it actually matters. Robert, 78, from Miami, came to me complaining of what he called cotton brain, afternoon fog that would hit around 2 p.m., dizziness when standing. His previous doctor had written it off as normal aging. It wasn't normal. It was chronic mild dehydration. We made one change: strategic morning hydration with a small electrolyte tablet, plus a consistent water schedule throughout the day. 4 weeks later, 4 weeks, Robert told me it felt like someone had turned the lights back on. His clarity improved. His afternoon fatigue dropped. One habit, measurable results. Pair your morning water intake with 10 to 15 minutes of sunlight exposure. Natural light regulates your circadian rhythm and improves kidney function. Hydration plus light equals sign a synergistic effect most people completely miss. Section 3. Habit, #5. Resistance movement. 6 o'clock, 9:30. Number 5. Resistance-based movement. Twice per week, minimum, and I need to be very clear about what this actually means because I see it misunderstood constantly. Resistance movement is not going to a gym and lifting heavy weights. I'm talking about any movement where your muscles work against a force, a resistance band, a light dumbbell, carrying groceries with intention, a wall push-up. The distinction matters enormously after 75 because of a process called anabolic resistance. Let me explain that. Anabolic resistance is the reduced ability of aging muscle cells to respond to protein and exercise stimulation. In practical terms, after 75, your body needs significantly more signal, more intentional resistance to maintain the same muscle mass that a 50-year-old maintains with half the effort. Your muscles aren't lazy, they're just harder to reach. If you don't reach them consistently, they begin a process called sarcopenia, progressive muscle loss, and strength decline. Research from the National Institutes of Health links sarcopenia to a 51% increased risk of falls, a 67% higher likelihood of being unable to perform basic daily tasks within 7 years, and a dramatically shortened lifespan overall. A clinical trial from the University of Alabama followed 180 adults aged 75 to 85 who began twice-weekly resistance training. After just 8 weeks, participants showed a 31% increase in leg strength, a 26% improvement in balance scores, and measurable improvement in insulin sensitivity, which directly affects energy levels, inflammation, and cognitive function. The mitochondria in your muscle cells, the power plants of your body, literally regenerate more efficiently when resistance exercise is present. You're not just building muscle, you're rebuilding the energy infrastructure of your entire body. Here's what the rare people do: 2 to 3 sessions per week, 25 to 35 minutes each, focusing on the large muscle groups, legs, hips, and back. Resistance bands are ideal because they provide progressive resistance without joint impact. The key is consistency and progression, gradually increasing resistance over time. Helen, 81, from Denver, told me she hadn't done any resistance training since her 60s. She felt weak, fragile. She relied on her daughter to help carry groceries. When she came to me, her grip strength was in the bottom 20th percentile for her age group, a powerful predictor of declining independence. We started with simple resistance band work, twice a week, 30 minutes. Within 12 weeks, her grip strength improved by 28%. More importantly, she carried her own groceries for the first time in 5 years. She told me with genuine pride that she felt like herself again. Perform your resistance session within 20 minutes of consuming 28 to 32 grams of protein. After 75, the anabolic window, the period your muscles can most efficiently absorb protein for repair, is shorter and more time-sensitive. Timing isn't optional, it's essential. Number 4, a consistent, purposeful sleep schedule. And this is far more complex than just going to bed early. After 75, your circadian rhythm, your body's internal 24-hour clock, begins to shift and weaken significantly. Your brain produces roughly 70% less melatonin than it did at age 30. Your slow-wave sleep, the deepest, most physically restorative phase, decreases by up to 80% from what it was in your 30s. This is the phase where human growth hormone is released, the hormone responsible for cellular repair, immune function, and muscle maintenance. This is where the healing happens. Here's what most people don't realize. Poor sleep after 75 isn't just about feeling tired. A study from UC Berkeley found that adults over 70 with disrupted sleep patterns showed a 72% higher accumulation of amyloid plaques in the brain, the same plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. Sleep quality directly determines cognitive decline risk. The rare people don't just sleep more, they sleep consistently. They go to bed within the same 30-minute window every night. They wake at the same time every morning, including weekends. They keep their bedroom temperature between 64 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit because body temperature regulation during sleep becomes less efficient after 75, and a cooler environment supports the deep sleep your brain desperately needs. They avoid screens for 60 to 90 minutes before bed, not just because of blue light, but because mental stimulation keeps your prefrontal cortex active in ways that delay sleep onset by an average of 52 minutes in adults over 70. Research from the Max Planck Institute found that adults 75 plus with consistent sleep schedules showed a 38% lower rate of cognitive decline over 5 years compared to those with irregular sleep patterns. Consistency matters more than duration. Marcus, 79, from Portland, had been a night owl his entire life. When he retired, his sleep schedule collapsed completely. He'd sleep at 11 p.m. one night, 2 a.m. the next. By the time he came to see me, he was experiencing afternoon confusion and memory lapses that scared him. We restructured his sleep entirely. Consistent bedtime, consistent wake time, cool, dark bedroom, no screens after 8 p.m. Within 6 weeks, his cognitive assessments improved measurably. His confusion cleared. He told me he felt more like himself than he had in years. Pair your consistent sleep schedule with 12 minutes of slow diaphragmatic breathing before bed. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and repair mode. Research shows it reduces nighttime cortisol levels by up to 28%, making it significantly easier to reach and sustain deep sleep in aging adults. Number 3, eating protein in a deliberate, distributed pattern. And I want to be very direct about something because I see this misunderstood constantly, and it genuinely concerns me as a physician. The idea that you need less protein as you age is not just wrong, it's one of the most harmful pieces of nutritional folklore ever passed down. The truth is the exact opposite. After 75, due to an amylolic resistance, your body actually requires 50 to 75% more dietary protein per pound of body weight than a healthy 30-year-old to achieve the same muscle maintenance effect. Yet most seniors I see are eating half the protein they need, often because appetite decreases with age and high-carbohydrate foods feel easier to prepare. Research published in Nutrients involving over 3,200 adults aged 70 to 85 found that those who consumed at least 1.3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily, distributed across 3 or more meals, maintained significantly more muscle mass, had 43% lower rates of hospitalization due to fall-related injuries, and showed markedly better immune response to infections like influenza and pneumonia. Think of protein like the bricks your body uses to rebuild itself every night. Every night while you sleep, your body tears down old damaged tissue and replaces it. Without enough bricks, without enough protein, the reconstruction is incomplete. Over months and years, the structural deficit becomes catastrophic. Here's what the rare people do. They aim for 27 to 35 grams of protein at each of their 3 main meals. That's approximately 4 to 5 ounces of chicken, fish, eggs, Greek yogurt, or legumes per meal. The reason distribution matters so much after 75 is that aging muscles can only utilize approximately 35 to 40 grams of protein per sitting for synthesis. Beyond that, the excess is oxidized for energy rather than used for repair. Spreading it out throughout the day makes every single gram count. Patricia, 76, from Chicago, came to me after her daughter noticed she'd lost nearly 22 pounds. Her previous doctor had called it normal age-related weight loss. It wasn't normal. She was losing muscle, not fat. Her grip strength had dropped to the bottom 18th percentile, a clear warning sign. We restructured her entire diet around deliberate protein intake. 28 grams at breakfast, 32 at lunch, 30 at dinner. 12 weeks later, she had regained 13 pounds of lean mass. Her grip strength returned to the 55th percentile. She told me she felt strong again. She could carry bags, play with her grandchildren without limitation, and move through her day with genuine independence. Pair your protein meals with vitamin C, an orange, some bell pepper, a squeeze of lemon juice. Vitamin C is essential for collagen synthesis, which works in tandem with dietary protein to maintain muscle, connective tissue, joint cartilage, and skin integrity. These work together. Do them together. Number 2, daily intentional social engagement. I told you at the beginning that one of the top 2 items would surprise you. This is the one that surprises most people because it sounds too soft, too emotional to be a medical recommendation. But I want to be absolutely clear. The research on social engagement and longevity in adults over 75 is not soft. It's some of the hardest, most replicable science in modern gerontology. A meta-analysis from Harvard Medical School analyzing data from over 400,000 adults across multiple decades found that social isolation carried a mortality risk equivalent to smoking 20 cigarettes per day. Let me say that again. Being chronically socially isolated is as dangerous to your lifespan as smoking 20 cigarettes every single day. For adults over 75, the National Institute on Aging found that loneliness accelerates cognitive decline by up to 68%, increases the risk of dementia by 43%, and dramatically elevates inflammatory markers in the blood, specifically interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein that directly damage cardiovascular tissue, immune function, and neural connectivity. Here's the physiological reason this works at such a deep level. Meaningful social interaction, not passive screen time, not watching television in the same room as someone, but actual engaged human connection triggers the release of oxytocin. Oxytocin suppresses cortisol, reduces inflammation, and activates the prefrontal cortex in ways that keep neural pathways dense and active. Think of your social brain like a muscle. The neurons that fire during genuine conversation, shared laughter, debate, and emotional connection are the same neurons that maintain your memory, your decision-making, and your sense of self. When those neurons go quiet for weeks at a time, they begin to prune. After 75, neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form new connections, has already decreased significantly, making unused pathways far harder to restore. Here's what the rare people do. They aim for at least one meaningful in-person social interaction every single day. A phone call counts if it's genuinely engaged. A community group, a faith gathering, a walking partner, a regular lunch with a neighbor. What does not count in terms of neurological benefit is passive social presence. You must be actively thinking, responding, laughing, disagreeing, sharing. That engagement is the stimulus that keeps your brain structurally intact. David, 80, from Nashville, had been mostly isolated for 3 years after his wife passed away. He had withdrawn almost completely. His son brought him to see me, concerned. Cognitively, he had declined measurably on standard assessments in less than a year. His scores on memory tests were dropping. We didn't change his medications. We built him a social schedule, a weekly book club, a daily 25-minute phone call with a rotating list of friends and family, a twice-weekly volunteer shift at his local community center. These weren't optional. They were prescriptions. 8 months later, his cognitive scores had improved measurably. His inflammatory markers had dropped. His son told me he seemed like himself again. Social engagement wasn't a luxury. It was a medical intervention. Pair your social engagement with physical movement whenever possible. A walk with a friend, a gentle exercise class with others, gardening with a neighbor. Research from the University of British Columbia shows that combining social interaction with even light physical activity produces a synergistic effect on BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that is significantly greater than either behavior alone. BDNF is essentially fertilizer for your brain cells. You want as much as possible, and now, number 1, this is the habit that fewer than 8% of adults over 75 maintain consistently. This is the one Johns Hopkins researchers have called the most underutilized longevity intervention available to aging adults without a prescription. Number 1, daily purposeful cognitive challenge. Not crossword puzzles, not passive reading, though both have value. I'm talking about something more specific, more demanding, and more transformative. The daily practice of learning something genuinely new. A skill, a language, a musical instrument, a new form of creative expression. Something that forces your brain into a state of productive discomfort. Here's why this is number 1. After 75, your brain begins to preferentially rely on established neural pathways. It becomes extraordinarily efficient at doing familiar things and extraordinarily reluctant to build new ones. This isn't laziness. It's a survival mechanism, an aging brain conserving metabolic energy by favoring the familiar. But here's the problem. This preference for the familiar is also the mechanism by which cognitive reserve is depleted. Cognitive reserve is your brain's resilience buffer, its ability to compensate for age-related structural changes and still function at a high level. Think of it like the RAM in a computer. The more cognitive reserve you have, the more damage your brain can absorb before you start experiencing symptoms of decline. The University of Edinburgh's Lothian birth cohort study followed over 1,000 adults from their 70s into their late 80s. Those who engaged in novel, challenging cognitive activities for at least 35 minutes per day showed a 49% slower rate of brain atrophy on MRI scans, maintained significantly better processing speed and memory, and were 41% less likely to receive a dementia diagnosis over the following decade. A separate analysis from the Rush Memory and Aging Project found that seniors who described their daily lives as intellectually engaging showed brain function equivalent to adults 10 to 12 years younger on standardized neurological assessments, 10 years younger. That's not hypothetical, that's measurable. The mechanism is neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. While neuroplasticity does decline with age, it never disappears entirely. The brain retains the capacity for meaningful structural change well into the 80s and 90s, but only if it's given sufficient stimulus. Novel learning is that stimulus. Learning a new language activates 5 distinct regions of the brain simultaneously and has been shown in studies from the American Academy of Neurology to delay dementia onset by an average of 5.2 years. Learning a musical instrument engages fine motor control, auditory processing, memory, and emotional regulation in a coordinated way that no other activity replicates. Even learning to cook a new cuisine from scratch works because it requires reading, sequencing, sensory attention, and motor skill. The struggle is the point. The productive discomfort is where the neurological benefit lives. It's the cognitive equivalent of resistance training. The resistance is the entire mechanism. Here's what the rare people do. They choose one genuinely new skill every 3 to 4 months and spend at least 25 to 35 minutes per day actively learning it. The key word is actively. Watching someone else play guitar on YouTube is not learning guitar. Sitting with an instrument in your hands and struggling through a chord progression, that struggle is where the growth happens. Edward, 78, from San Francisco, retired from a 42-year career as an architect. By his own description, he spent the first 2 years of retirement doing very little that truly challenged his mind. He came to see me after noticing increasing difficulty with names and following complex conversations. His MRI showed age-appropriate changes, nothing alarming, but his cognitive reserve scores were lower than they should have been. I gave him one prescription. Pick something you've always wanted to learn and do it every day for the next year. He chose Japanese. He was 78 years old and had never studied another language in his life. He was terrible at first. Absolutely terrible. He will tell you himself. 18 months later, he had achieved basic conversational fluency. He joined a Japanese conversation group, which addressed social engagement simultaneously. His follow-up cognitive assessments showed improvement in 4 of 5 measured domains. Improvement, not maintenance. Improvement at 78. He told me that learning Japanese had changed how he thought about aging entirely. It showed him he wasn't done. He wasn't declining. He was still capable of genuine growth. That's what number 1 does. Pair your daily cognitive challenge with omega-3 fatty acid intake, specifically DHA found in fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, or in high-quality fish oil supplements. DHA is the primary structural fat of brain cell membranes. Research from the Framingham Heart Study shows that adults with higher DHA levels demonstrated significantly better neuroplasticity responses to cognitive training. In other words, DHA helps your brain absorb the benefit of what you're learning. It's the fertilizer beneath the seed. Let me close with something I say from the heart. Because I have sat across from enough patients in the 75 to 85 age range to know that this period of life is too often treated as a countdown rather than a continuation. It is not a countdown. The research I've shared with you today points to something that medicine is only beginning to fully appreciate. The body and mind at 75, at 80, at 85. retain a remarkable, stubborn capacity for resilience, not in spite of age, in dialogue with it. The 6 habits we discussed today: strategic hydration, resistance movement, consistent sleep, deliberate protein intake, daily social connection, and purposeful cognitive challenge, are not about turning back the clock. They are about making the most extraordinary possible use of the time the clock still has. They are about carrying your own groceries, remembering your grandchildren's names without writing them down, driving to your own appointments, laughing until your eyes water at dinner with someone who matters to you, having a conversation that changes someone's mind, learning something that makes you proud of yourself. That is what independence looks like. That is what quality of life means. And I promise you, I have seen it with my own eyes in patients who were told there was nothing left to optimize. It is never, ever too late to begin. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, please do that right now. Every week, I bring research-backed, senior-specific health information that I genuinely believe can add years of quality to your life. Click subscribe and make sure the notification bell is on so you never miss a video. This content is specifically for you. Now, I want to hear from you. Leave your age in the comments and tell me which of these 6 habits are you already doing consistently and which one do you want to build next. I will be reading every single response. This community is one of the most engaged and thoughtful I have ever been part of, and that is entirely because of you. I'll see you in the next one. Take good care of yourself because you are genuinely worth the effort.